Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Trust you had a great weekend. We had some rain, but it's really volatile. You know, 1 minute it's raining and you think you're in Scotland, the next minute it's bright sunshine. Home thoughts, sunset in the city of Nairobi. This photo is by Focus Pics. Good one. I've been thinking of Don DeLillo, but I was reading Peter Frankopan over the weekend. But going back to DeLillo, everything is barely weeks, everything is days. We have minutes to live. And then a very good short story I came across by Sam Shepard in the New Yorker. They deliver my father's corpse in the trunk of a 49 Mercury coupe, dew still heavy on the tail lights. His body is wrapped up tight in see-through plastic head to toe. Flesh-coloured rubber bands bind it at the neck, waist and ankles, mummy style. He's become very small in the course of things, maybe 8 inches tall. In fact, I'm holding him now in the palm of my hand. I asked them for permission to unwrap his tiny head, just to make sure he's truly dead. They allow me to do this. They all stand aside, hands clasped behind their tailored backs, heads bowed in a kind of ashamed mourning, but not something you would question them on. It's smart to keep on their good side. Besides, they seem quite polite and stoic now. Somebody retweeted a photograph I took of the bend in the Mara River. And when we were there a few months ago, and I tweeted the hippos have returned from their nightly escapades. It took me back to Viesnaipo, the bend in the river. Going home at night, it wasn't often that I was on the river at night. I never liked it. I never felt in control. In the darkness of river and forest, you could be sure only of what you could see. And even on a moonlit night, you couldn't see much. When you made a noise, dipped a paddle in the water, you heard yourself as though you were another person. The river and the forest were like presences, and much more powerful than you. You felt unprotected, an intruder. You felt the land taking you back to something that was familiar, something you had known at some time, but had forgotten or ignored, but which was always there. You felt the land taking you back to what was there 100 years ago, to what had been there always. My piece over the weekend is called The Parabolic Rebound of Vladimir Putin. So much has happened in 2016, from the Brexit vote to President-elect Trump, and it certainly feels like we have entered a new normal. One common theme is a parabolic Putin rebound. At this moment, President Putin has Fortress Europe surrounded. The intellectual father of the new zeitgeist that propelled Brexit, Le Pen, the five-star movement in Italy, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, is Vladimir Putin. In the Middle East, it is Putin who's calling the shots in Aleppo, and in a quite delicious irony, it looks like he has pocketed OPEC as well. However, my starting point is the election of President Donald Trump, because hindsight will surely show that Russia ran a seriously sophisticated program of interference, mostly digital. Don DeLillo is a prophetic 21st century writer, writes as follows in one of his short stories. The specialist is monitoring data on his mission console when a voice breaks in, a voice that carried with it a strange and unspecifiable poignancy. He checks in with his flight dynamics and conceptual paradigm officers at Colorado Command. We have a deviant tomahawk. We copy, there's a voice. We have gross oscillation here. There's some interference. I've gone redundant, but I'm not sure it's helping. We are clearing an outframe to locate source. Thank you, Colorado. It is probably just selective noise, your negative red on the step function quad. It was a voice, I told them. We have just received an affirm on selective noise. We will correct Tomahawk. In the meantime, advise you to stay redundant. The voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pidgin, is a mélange of repartee, laughter, and song, with a quality of purest, sweetest sadness. Somehow we are picking up signals from radio programs of 40, 50, 60 years ago. I have no doubt that Putin ran a seriously 21st century, predominantly digital program of interference, which amplified the Trump candidacy. President-elect Trump was an ideal candidate for this kind of support. Trump is a linguistic warfare specialist. Look at the names he gave his opponents: Crooked Hillary, Lying Ted, Little Marco. Low energy Jeb were devastating and terminal. So the first thing is plausible deniability. Some folks here at home in Kenya need to remember those words. The second thing is non-linearity. You have to learn how to navigate a linear system, the new 21st century digital ecosystem, in a non-linear way. When you launch a social media campaign where 100 bots repeat the same thing verbatim, like Mombasa did last week, then your very linearity is a monumental look. It's me sign. Beppe Grillo, the comic turned leader of the Five-Star Movement in Italy, said this is the deflagration of an epoch. It's the apocalypse of the information system, of the TVs, of the big newspapers, of the intellectuals, of the journalists. He is right. Traditional media has been disrupted, and the insurgents can broadcast live and over the top. From feeding the hothouse conspiracy frenzy online, a constant state of destabilized perception, timely and judicious doses of WikiLeaks leaks which drained Hillary's bona fides and her turnout and motivated Trump's, what we have witnessed is something remarkable and noteworthy. Putin has proven himself an information master, and his adversaries are his information victims. Bershitsky in Bloomberg View seems to agree with me. After 2 years of presiding over a weakened Russia, Putin has his confidence back. And there's no doubt about that. I'll put up a photograph of Putin making his presidential address on December the 1st to the Federal Assembly. Take you back to the 5th of October 2015 when I called Putin a geopolitical grandmaster. And I said, let us return to UNGA, where Putin set out his stall, and I quote, I cannot help asking those who have caused the situation, do you realize now what you've done? The Guardian has an interesting image, Google Democracy and the Truth about Internet Search. I like this tweet from Markat. Back in Damascus, walk through the old city tonight. The Umayyad Mosque, always so breathtaking. I've always wanted to go there. I'll put a photograph of Don DeLillo, who of course I was quoting in my piece about Putin. Remind you of Beppe Grillo, this is the deflagration of an epoch. It's the apocalypse of the information system. This is another important point. Traditional media has lost its position of control. It's been upended by the internet, which allowed insurgent politics to broadcast over the top. Beppe Grillo, who's the leader of the Five-Star Movement and was previously a comic, tweeted in Italian, una lezione per tutti. Non si può mentire per sempre al popolo senza subire conseguenze. There are consequences to ignoring the voice of the people. Renzi has announced his resignation after the referendum defeat. Europe was holding its breath as Italy headed for the polls. But interestingly, the Austrian far-right candidate has conceded defeat in the presidential race, which is one small victory. This Saudi woman appeared in public like this, head uncovered, and everyone in Saudi Arabia wants her executed. Where has she been? Kim Jong-un's wife is back after mystery 9-month absence. Asked if Trump lets him do whatever he wants with settlements, Netanyahu says, well, I think we've been doing what we want. Nobody makes peace with the weak, Netanyahu said as well. We make peace with the strong. Fox News quoted Newt Gingrich, Beijing does not dictate who an American president speaks to. Trump, in his barrage of early morning tweets, did China ask us if it was okay to devalue their currency, making it harder for our companies to compete, heavily tax our products going into their country, the US doesn't tax them, or build a massive military complex in the middle of the South China Sea? I don't think so, he said. Let's move on to currency markets. Euro dollar down 100 ticks, 105.65. Dollar index 101.38. Japanese yen 113.44. Swiss franc 101.57. The pound moving up 126.92. The Aussie 0.7447. India rupee a little bit firmer, 68.155. South Korean won 11.7507. The rial 347.65. The Egyptian pound back over 18. Red Cap man has 14.5 as the fair value, so it's looking pretty cheap. The South African rand 13.883. I'll put up a chart of the dollar index. This is from Holger. My target is 110. The euro hit a fresh 12-year low momentarily around just above 105. Now it's at 105.66, which is a 20-month low. Euro sterling, have a look at this graph from David Inglis. I think we sell the euro, buy sterling. And then, you know, my mirrors on the ceiling, pink champagne on ice. Have a look at the US 10-year yield. This is via Aurelia. Commodity markets, gold 1175.56. Not going to the upside anytime soon. I like this OPEC oil minister's family photo. Note Iran and Saudi Arabia standing shoulder to shoulder. Brent crude, in my opinion, is toppy now at just above $54 a barrel. It has now doubled from January's multi-year low of $27.10. Last week was its biggest weekly gain in 15 months after OPEC. Emerging markets, Erdogan says Turkey faces economic sabotage as lira plunges. Said his political enemies are trying to sabotage the economy by speculating on the stock market, foreign exchange rate and interest rates after failing to overthrow its administration in July. The lira plunged to record lows over the past week, even as Erdogan urged Turks to convert their foreign currency savings into lira and gold while vying to keep up his fight against high interest rates. Trying to verbally stem a run on the lira, which has lost more than any other emerging market currency. Someone is trying to force this country to its knees by economic sabotage after failing to seize it with tanks, guns and F-16s on July the 15th. This is not a new game and we're used to it, especially in the last 3 years. They are constantly attempting to use an economic crisis as a trump card, he said. After Jammeh's defeat, an update on the state of Africa's longest ruling leaders club, 1996 to 2016, this is from Charles Cobbo. I hereby declare Adama Barrow duly elected President of the Republic of Gambia for the next 5 years. There will be an economic boom, and jailed people can be freed, and people exiled abroad will come back home to their families, said the 23-year-old. This is a really big turnaround. Jeffrey Smith, a human rights activist and founder director of Vanguard Africa, which worked with the opposition coalition, so that if Mr. Jammeh can be defeated at the ballot box, then anyone can. This is going to have resonance way beyond the tiny borders of Gambia, he said, describing the result as a momentous occasion for the region writ large. It is. Banjul this afternoon, well, this was on Sunday, I think, Gambia. President Jose Eduardo dos Santos, in power for 37 years, will stand down before the 2017 elections. That's almost 4 decades in power. Joao Lourenço, country's defense minister, will take over as leader of the ruling Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, the MPLA. The president will not be a candidate, and he already has a successor. Angola's state-owned oil firm to pay no dividend this year. Sonangol has been honouring the monthly payment related to its financial obligations to the banks. This is Dos Santos' daughter. People want total change. This means the EPRDF has to hold a free and fair election. But they interpret that as wanting to overthrow the government by force. They will cut your neck for staying so. At first glance, Addis Ababa, a city of more than 3 million people, the centre of one of the continent's fastest growing economies, appears to be normal. But beneath the surface, it is clear Ethiopia's authoritarian rulers are in a fight for survival as they combat unprecedented levels of discontent. Regime is dominated by ethnic Tigrayans who comprise only 6% of the population, admits that more than 500 people have probably been killed since anti-government protests began 13 months ago. 2 months into what is expected to be a 6-month state of emergency, 11,600 people have been arrested. Diplomats in Addis Ababa describe the government's response as superficial. They have failed to address the underlying grievances that caused the protests in the first place. They only talk to themselves in their echo chambers very loud, but it's soundproofed on the outside, so they only hear their own propaganda. Analysts say the regime's development model, the foundation of its legitimacy, is becoming an increasingly large Achilles heel. It is founded on copying nations such as South Korea, Singapore, and China, which prioritize state-led development over democracy, and until last year proved extremely successful. But as Zemedena Negatu, a prominent Ethiopian business leader, said, these big economic bets they want to make take time to pay off, and the space available to allow these bets to deliver is much shorter than the environment the Asian tigers operated in the 1960s and 1970s. Furthermore, the advent of new technologies has elevated the public's expectations of the timing and the quality of the deliverables. Even if they bring gold and diamonds, people have given up on this government, said a student activist too afraid to give his name. They will do whatever it takes to see change. The only question is how long it will take. Maybe 5 years, we hope only one. I wrote about this on the 17th of October, Ethiopia's reputation shattered by political tensions. And I was quoting Kapuscinski, who says, you don't understand a thing. I'm not writing so the details add up. The point is the essence of the matter. The essence of the matter is not a very good one. S&P holds South Africa's rating at BBB-, downgrades local debt. Have a look at the returns of stock markets across Africa. This is from African_markets. South African all-share minus 2.84% this year. Dollar rand, have a look at this chart from GT Private Broking, 13.8830. Interesting, isn't it? I think a lot of it is to do with the politics, what happens next with Zuma. Egyptian pound versus the dollar over 18. I'll put up a 3-month chart. Nigerian all-share down 21.84%. This, that must be the Ghana Stock Exchange. Kenya, 5 and 10-year Eurobond yields. This is from the Citon report. A little bit of an improvement. Ahmed Nasir, Abdi Kadir and co. advocates acting for depositors of Imperial Bank threatened to bring a class action lawsuit against the central bank and the governor. We know that these people, driven by the cartels, are planning an avalanche of legal suits and measures against the bank and the governor. We will respond to these suits according to the law, the source said, adding that the cartels had been frustrated with the cleaning up of the sector and had resorted to legal mercenary tactics to frustrate the CBK and intimidate the governor. A person familiar with the matter suggested that ongoing criminal investigations against 2 individuals at Chase Bank had reached a crucial stage, and the individuals were running scared. The latest claims against the governor could also be triggered by a case filed by Imperial Bank, CBK and KDIC against the directors of Imperial Bank, which has reportedly sent shockwaves in the entire industry. In the case filed on September 30 through Gore and Gore advocates, Imperial Bank, CBK and KDIC are demanding $449 million from the directors, which they say was the amount lost or defrauded while they were directors of the collapsed lender. The amount includes a claim made against the shareholders for irregularly paying themselves $27 million as dividends when the bank wasn't making any profit, and a further $20 million claimed from the directors for recklessly lending to firms. And in response to what has been going on, you've got to be aware that there's been a massive linguistic warfare campaign. And I said, the first thing that's in my article over the weekend is plausible deniability. And some folks here at home need to remember those words because it's so obvious who they are. And the second thing is non-linearity. You have to learn how to navigate a linear system in a non-linear way. Otherwise, you're going to give yourself away again, like Mombasa did, which launched a social media campaign where 100 bots repeated the same thing verbatim. And in effect, their very linearity is a monumental look. It's me saying. And therefore, I also wrote on the 16th of November, the first point to note is that launching a real-time linguistic warfare campaign on the governor is inimical to the national interest. Nairobi All Share down 6.36% this year, NSE 20 down 19.62% this year. Wishing you a wonderful week and thanks for stopping by.